Begg's Banter is brought to you by Saltire Energy, who continue to lead the way in the oil and gas industry when it comes to specialist equipment rental. And by Lux Scott, a jet-class luxury vehicle company who are fast changing the face of luxury business and leisure travel in Scotland and beyond. Look out for their brand new events company. Hi there, a very warm welcome to this brand new edition of Begg's Banter here on Ali Begg ABTV. If you're watching for the very first time, the idea behind this show is that I speak to former Aberdeen players about their time and their career at Pittodrie. For this episode, I was absolutely delighted to have caught up with former striker Adam Rooney. Now, please take into consideration that this interview was conducted about a year ago and before I actually set up this YouTube channel. So the background in the video is different to what you see today, but I hope that doesn't spoil your fun. Let's just give you a little bit of a refresher about Adam's time at Aberdeen. So he played for the club between 2014 and 2018. He made 119 appearances, scoring 88 goals. That picture comes courtesy of ScottCameronBaxter.com. When Adam and I caught up from his home near Birmingham about a year ago, we spoke about his time at Pittodrie after the 2014 League Cup final. If you would like to know more about Adam's time before that, just after he signed, and about the cup final, please head to alibeg.com where you will find his written blog. Please welcome to Begg's Banter, former Aberdeen striker Adam Rooney.
So I want to go back to the season after the cup final, which was 2014-15. In that season, you scored 28 goals. What do you think was the key to that success?
I think it's coming off the back of having such a good start to the previous campaign when I came in, and obviously done well, hit the ground running, and I think I finished my first year there with about 9 goals. I think in I can't remember how many games it was, but I was obviously confident coming back. And then we got off to a great start, obviously, with the Europa League draw. I was looking forward to that, so I came back with confidence, and the team had been doing well off the back of the League Cup success. And then obviously I banged that hat-trick against Riga. So I think after the European games, the first few rounds, I'd got about 5 or 6 goals on my belt already. So going into the season with the goals on the belt and the confidence from the previous year, I think that's really stood to me. I think the link up as well between myself, Johnny, and Niall was an even better understanding than the previous year. And my job was just to get in the box. I knew my job, get in the box, and luckily we were a team that were creating a lot of chances. So yeah, no, I think hitting the ground running in terms of pre-season and getting a few goals in Europe obviously gave us a boost and got going.
That hat-trick against Riga, were you actually aware at the time that you were the first Aberdeen player in 30 years to score a hat-trick in a European game?
No, I remember one of the lads mentioned to me after the game, maybe it was for the Red TV interviews or something, maybe Dave or something. It could have been Andy. He loves his stats, so I think Andy might get. He used to inform me of all the stats of the records that's coming near to and what I had to do to get them. So he told me after, I think, and I think the great thing was Joe Harper, I think, was actually on that flight back with us, and he was the first one in the airport to congratulate me. I think he was probably the scorer of the previous one, but yeah, no, it was nice to have him there at the game for it. He came up just to congratulate me. So no, it's obviously a brilliant thing to achieve, you know.
Season 2015-16, do you think that one was a missed opportunity? So we finished second. That was the season where we went on that crazy unbeaten run.
Bonnie Doyle, wasn't it?
Yeah. Then we didn't win in 6 just before Christmas. And then the split, we only won 1 game out of the 5. So do you think that was a missed opportunity?
Yeah, I think, well, missed opportunity. They're still trying to get by a very good Celtic team, you know. There's a reason you have to be so good and so consistent. And I remember a lot of the talk at the time was, like, you should be able to do it, but it's not as simple as that. You see when Leicester won the league, I remember a lot of people used to say, well, look, Leicester won the Premier League, but there's a reason they were 5,001 to win the league, because it doesn't happen very often. So it's not that simple. I think a couple of things went against us this year. I think that was the year Danny Ward was called back on loan, wasn't it?
Right.
Like Danny Ward was massive for us that season. You know, the confidence I think the whole backline had in Danny behind them. I think him being recalled kind of affected us a little bit. And then I picked up an injury around, I think it was the February time. I think I picked up an injury, and I'd obviously been in good form. I think I've been scoring goals. I think the game before I got injured, I think I scored a goal away in Inverness, and we were playing some good stuff at the time. So I think the loss of Danny, obviously at the back line, then myself getting injured, probably went against us. I know Churchy came in and done very well for us, but we had a good understanding between myself, Johnny, Niall, and we were kind of the go-to for in terms of getting goals, and I don't think that really helped us. But I think once we got to the split, I think we'd kind of lost it. I remember Celtic played, I think, against Kilmarnock, I think it may have been, and it was a Beaton scored from about 35 yards in the last minute.
Yeah.
And I think everyone kind of thought, I remember that result coming in, and everyone kind of dressed around thought, oh, it's going their way now. And little things like that can really affect teams mentally. It's all about momentum, and once you lose that, it's very difficult to regain it. So yeah, I think there was obviously a chance to go and win, but I don't think it was true lads chucking away. I think a couple of things went against us. Losing Danny was massive for us though, in terms of just the understanding he had with the defence and the confidence he gave us as a team.
The 2016 League Cup final against Celtic, there were a lot of hopes on that game. I remember the sort of the buzz about the town before that game, but we were 2-0 down at half time. Why do you think we just couldn't get going in that game?
I think a lot of us got to do with the game plan. I think I remember going into that game was we knew how good Celtic were, and we didn't want to open up too early and have a go at them too soon, because the pace they had in the team, they could really exploit it. We didn't want to get counter-attacked on too early. We were going too gung-ho. So the intention was to try and keep our shape, remain solid, frustrate them a little bit. Obviously with the crowd there, the longer the game goes, then the more frustrated their fans are getting, and hopefully the game would open up more for us to get our players on the ball. But I think Rogic put one in after 14 minutes from 25 yards, and as soon as that goal goes in, it's so hard then to change our game plan. So the next target is obviously get to half time, but once you're 2 down against that team, Celtic had a springless step. They were knocking the ball around. We couldn't get near them. Very frustrating to play in, because I know we took a lot of flack off fans for saying we didn't try, but when you're 2-0 down, you just couldn't get near them at times. They moved the ball. That Celtic team was so good under Rodgers. They moved the ball so well. The movement of, if you went man to man with them, they could exploit you because they'd better players. If you tried to sit in, they had 4 or 5 players in the team who could put a ball in from 25 yards. So even you're restricting them from shots from distance, there's a good chance you're going to score. So yeah, it was a very frustrating game. I remember running around the second half and just thinking, we can't get near this. There's not a chance of us getting back in this game. And it's not a good feeling as a player to be on the pitch and thinking we've no hope here, because they were so dominant. And I know we did take a lot of stick after the game. People didn't think we tried, but listen, it hurts no one more than the players. The players, these are the parts of your career you look back on, and you want to look back on. Like, I'll never forget winning the League Cup. So to be in a cup final, you'll never forget your losses either. You actually remember the losses worse than you actually remember the wins. So it hurts the players more than anyone. So I think the players felt they took a bit of stick there for not feeling like it didn't appear like we tried, but on the day they were just too good for us.
How did you get over a defeat like that, mate?
All you can do is use that experience. I know Derek used to say after we had a couple of bad defeats to Celtic and stuff in the cup finals, especially, is you just use them as motivation for going forward. Whether it's earlier on the season, you use it to take into the rest of your season, which it's at the end of the season for the Scottish Cup. Then you use that as a driving force through your summer. You go away, if you lose, I remember losing the Scottish Cup final, you go away and you think about it all summer. You've no more games. There's nothing else to think about. You've not finished on the side. So you go away and you use it as motivation to work even harder and try and learn from the experience. But yeah, you take the losses. That's part of the game, unfortunately. You have a lot more losses than wins.
For the cup final, the Scottish Cup final, you were on the bench, which I think came as a surprise to quite a few folk. Can you remember when you got the news from the gaffer that you'd be on the bench? How did you react?
Yeah, I wasn't happy. Obviously, as anyone, was a cup final. I wanted to play. I think that was the year it scored in the semi-final after 11 seconds. So I was going there, obviously full of confidence. And just thought after the League Cup defeat and how it'd gone, I thought if we were going to beat these, we need to score. And I obviously felt it was our best option to score a goal. Now, Jayden done very well in the game. When we actually had it, we actually done very well in the game as a team. But no, as anyone be as good. Cup final, you want to be there, all your family are there, friends. It's what you want to play in. So it's good. I think I was told on the day. I had a suspicion because I think the day before we'd done a bit of shape work. He'd looked at a couple of options. Jayden had been through the middle. I think he actually looked at one stage of Kenny playing through there. But I think that was more of a, if we're winning late on, to have an extra midfielder more so on the pitch to try and keep possession of the ball and see the game out. But I had a suspicion, and then I remember just being told on the day. So yeah, it was obviously raging. But I'm not one to have a go, and I understand as you get older as well, it's a difficult job. Managers, you pick the best team for what you think is going to work on the day. So I'm never being one to go and moan and throw a strop. I get on with it. But obviously inside, I was very disappointed.
Okay. For the start of 2017-18, you got injured. So what happened? Can I just ask? Because you didn't actually...
Now I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure we had played a pre-season friendly against Brecon the day before. I think myself and Goodwillie played up front. Okay. And it was the next day or the day after. So me and Goody had been basically given a light training session. We didn't take part in all the session because we played a game. So we done a bit of shooting after Robbo. Barry Robson was doing coaching, so he took us to do a bit of shooting because we were only having a light session because we played a full game, and which is standard really. We were doing shooting, and I just went to hit a shot with the outside of my foot, and whatever way I shot, I just felt a slight pull in my quad, so I basically tore my quad. But it was only small, but it was probably a 5 or 6 week job.
Yeah.
So
and it was because you didn't actually, because again I worked it out. You started your first game in September. So that season, you started 23 and you were on the bench for 21 of the games. So do you think that injury hampered that season for you personally?
Well, obviously not ideal getting injured in pre-season. You missed the start, but getting, as I say, it's important to get off the mark early on in the season, try and get a few goals up and running. But no, because once I came back from injury, I think was that the game I came on, scored against Partick Thistle maybe?
Yeah.
I would come on and scored. I hadn't been on a drought or anything like that. So I felt good once I actually got back. But I just think that season, to be honest, I think it's got to do with the playing style. I think the way we played as a team changed. And I don't think it suited me as much. We obviously lost Johnny. Johnny was away then, I think. Niall had maybe gone off to South Korea, had he? Mm-hmm. So basically, for the previous 3 years or so, it'd been myself, Johnny and Niall have been the mainstays through the front of the team. So I think losing them for me was massive in terms of we had an understanding. Well, the understanding was Johnny gets the ball, I run in the box and he crosses it. And same with Niall on the other side. So I think the emphasis on the role of the number 9 basically changed in terms of we hadn't got that out and out direct pace and crossing on the wings. I know Gary McCoy-Stephen came in, a very good player, but different type of player than Johnny and Niall, and we brought in a couple of others. But I think we became more of a team who looked to build possession higher up the pitch and link up the play and cut teams open that way, which I don't think was for us. I don't think the loss of Johnny and Niall was massive for basically the balls into the box for myself, because I don't think we put as many balls in there. And then that obviously takes massively away from the main area of my game has been in that 6-yard box, being around the box, and less so the coming short to link the play and that sort of thing. So listen, there's nothing the gaffer could have done about losing Johnny and Niall. They decided to make the decisions to go elsewhere, but drastically affecting the impact on the team as a whole.
There were times when you were asked to sort of play out of position. Was that, I can remember, when you look through social media and the comments, it was a huge source of frustration for fans. I know I was frustrated with it. Were you frustrated with it as a player?
Did you not enjoy watching me stealing step overs on the wing? This is why you pay to get a pullback. I know.
Taking on the 4 players, beating them, crossing it in.
I remember you get a lot of comments off fans on Twitter and stuff like that after games were played. But I think, to be fair to Derek, I think his game plan, which probably didn't tell a lot of people, was he wanted, a lot of games he didn't want to not play me, but he obviously felt, because I'm the most reliant goal scorer, he wanted me on the pitch somewhere. But he may have felt, whether it be Stevie May or Goody or Ozzy or whoever, he felt he needed them in the team at the same time and didn't want to drop me. So what he tended to do was he'd shove me out on the left, but then he'd say to me in the tactic was, as the ball comes out to the left-hand side, you drift off in towards the box. And whoever the left back was, usually someone with good pace and legs. So it would either be Shinny or Johnny would play in midfield. And the idea was, as the ball came across to the left, I'd drift inside the pitch and they would end up just overlapping basically, and I'd end up in the box anyway. I think actually against St. Johnstone at home, I think I may have played off the left. I think Stevie May played up front. I think I played off the left. I think I got a hat-trick at home against them. Was it a hat-trick?
Yeah,
yeah, I think
at McDermott Park.
I think no, at Pittodrie. I think I may have got a hat-trick. Did I get a hat-trick against St. Johnstone at home? I can't remember. I remember scoring anyway a couple of goals at home against St. Johnstone. And I think Stevie May actually started through the middle and I started off the left. But I ended up in the box and he drifted out wide and put balls in the box. So that was the thinking behind it. I also think defensively, although I wasn't as quick as I think he always trusted me to do a job defensively in terms of if he wanted me to get back, he knew I wouldn't just stand up front, I'd run back and try and stay with full backs and try and do the job defensively. And also at times there's probably teams that were probably physically better in the air, so we probably wanted an extra taller player in the pitch for defending, whether it be corners or whatever. So yeah, I understand fans are probably frustrated seeing me standing out on the left wing, but I don't think they would have seen me many times get the ball out there and go by a player. I tended to drift off into the middle somewhere. But I do remember you see a lot of comments on
it. When did you start to think it was time to move on?
It came about the end of that season, really. Obviously, I think I played probably 2 starts since February. The end of that season, I think I only started about 2 games since the end of February. I think Cosy finished every game after the split. I'd only got 2 starts. I was coming off the bench the last few minutes of games, and that was frustrating. I'd been basically the number 9, the main man. I'd seen a lot of lads off in terms of had come in, the likes of Stevie May, Goody, Jaden, they'd all come in and been a challenge, and I'd managed to keep the position one way or another. But I just felt like that was changing. I didn't think I understand at times. I think when you're at a club for so long, people start to look at what you can't do rather than what you actually do. So I think people just expected me to score goals. And although me link-up player, the rest of it mightn't have been as up to scratch as the likes of Cosy, Stevie May, brilliant at coming in the short, linking the play, running. Goody's obviously excellent at that as well as Jaden, and Cosy obviously very good in the air and strong that way physically. So I think the longer you can be, I think it happens with managers as well. I think you start to look more for what they don't do for the team rather than what they do provide for the team. So I found myself just getting frustrated. On Nicky Maynard, I was trying to think of the other player that came in. So Nicky Maynard, but so I just started to get frustrated. Basically, I felt I'd done enough over the years to prove that I should be in the team most weeks in terms of the goals and me goals per minutes and my chances created, what I'd get, I'd put away. So it was frustrating as a player. That's probably when I first started to consider it. There's other things going on in my life as well. My brother had become unwell. He was going through a bit of a tough time medically. And then obviously it's due my second child, and I was just coming up to the age of 30. I thought in football, although even now I'm 33, I feel like I can play for another 5 years. As soon as you're starting to get in that 30 mark, clubs instantly start to consider you being old, and maybe you'll get a 1-year contract here, maybe you won't have another couple of years. And who knows, once you go beyond that, you might pick up a bad injury and you could be finished your career because it's very hard to get it back in then. So there's loads of things to weigh up, and I just felt coming up to this age, new child in the way my brother was, the way it'd been going at Aberdeen for the last few months, that maybe it was something to consider moving on. And I didn't want it because we were very settled. Anyone knows we still have friends in Aberdeen, gotten out from the club, great relationship with the fans, a great relationship with Derek and Doc and all the players. And there was no issues in terms of that. But the main thing was, well, it's built up such a good reputation there and ripped out the fans, and I didn't want it to peter out and become a place where I felt I didn't want to become really disappointed with the place and leave on bad terms. I didn't want it to go into the next season and whether I was sitting on the bench again, and if another forward came in, I was getting 5 minutes and I wasn't getting on the game, then it became a case of we're fighting to get on the bench now all of a sudden. I didn't want to become a place where I didn't like going, because I'd had such a good time there that I didn't want that to turn. So I thought it was better to leave while it was still on good terms and on a high, because still had great times and great memories with the club.
There were some raised eyebrows when you decided to drop down into non-league football. What was the decision behind that? What was the thinking behind that decision?
Well, basically, as of what I just said, I remember coming back for pre-season, and first day I think we were doing testing over in, can't even remember the name of the fitness place across the right in Pittodrie, where we done our fitness in Derby. The sports centre. Sorry, just a sports centre around the corner. But I remember going over there, we were going to do our testing, and director said, "Oh, if he never gets you, phone me." And so what? He said, "Oh, Gary Neville." He had him his call. Speaking to Gary Neville, he rang about you. Just said, Salford have been on about you, asking about your situation. And we said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Yeah, no, I told him, like, you're one of our players. You won't be going anywhere. One of our main players." Like, he said, "I just thought it was weird to phone call off Gary Neville for you." So I thought nothing of it. And then I think they'd been in touch then again later on about potentially buying me. And after he'd first mentioned it, I looked into Salford a bit, obviously seeing them on the documentary and stuff. But then they've been in touch again. It was mentioned again about they're really keen to speak to me. So I'd obviously been considering this over the summer in terms of the way it'd been finishing the season before. Situation with my brother, and just wanting to make sure that I finished the last few years of my career or wherever I had left enjoying my football. Obviously, I hadn't enjoyed the last couple of months in terms of sitting on the bench, so it was something I looked into. And then once I seen the people involved in the club, and then I got to speak to them and what was actually the plan for the club, I thought it was something that interested me. So I got to speak to them. I spoke to the manager, Graham Alexander. He laid out his vision for the club. Obviously, the owners who were involved. So, the people who are involved, they're ambitious, and because of what they've done in their career, you could be sure that they're going to achieve it with the football club. And I honestly felt it was going to be a situation where they could kind of go. I'd come to Aberdeen, and that was where I'd enjoyed my football more than anywhere in my career was Aberdeen. So because I'd gone there, I'd done well for the club, got on with the fans, and it made myself a name by scoring the winning penalty. And I felt it was maybe something I could go and do with Salford, and maybe could go there and try and get them into the Football League and make history that way. That was the plan, to try and go and get them up as high up the Football League as possible. So in the end, I just thought it was a lot of things that enticed me to make the change and make sure I go and enjoy my football. As I say, I'm 3 years later, I'm still playing, and I feel like I could keep going for a few more years. But when you just turn 30 and that number of football people start to doubt how long you can go on for, there's a long contract there in terms of family for security, obviously new baby on the way, and just to get back playing. It ticked a lot of boxes for me, to be honest. It was difficult to leave Aberdeen. I don't think I would have left just to go to another club in Scotland. I don't think I would have left to go to a lot of clubs in League 2 or League 1. There was a couple interested. There was a couple in Scotland interested, but I had no real desire just to go, just to make a move for the sake of it. It was the fact that the people involved with the football club, what they seen and where they seen my role in it. It felt good to wanted to be part of that.
All right, last question. If you could turn back the clock and change any moment or anything from your time at Pittodrie, what would you like to change?
Spending so much time with Johnny. No, I don't know. You asked me this, and I was trying to think. There's not that whole lot of my time there where I regret or wish I'd gone differently. There's a couple of moments, obviously. I think first season Scottish Cup semi-final against St Johnstone, I had a chance. But again, it's a chance. If you score some, you miss some, you're forward. So if I put away there, maybe went 2-0 up, maybe a different game, might get to another final. But again, I've missed plenty of chances over the years. It's just the Maribor penalty, but then again, I
wondered if that would be your answer.
Yeah, because I tend to study keepers, so keepers obviously study players where they might study keepers for penalties, because a lot of them have tendencies which way they'll go, and that fellow's 6'7" or something, he's huge, and he tended to go either way. There was no real, he'd go either way, and obviously I used to go both sides, so I thought I'd stick it down the middle and just his feet hit it, just didn't hit it high enough. So yeah, no, Maribor, but then again, I think we would have lost that game anyway, just because the ref absolutely robbed us. Where it was like there was definitely a stitch up in that game, and we were robbed. Because Jaden came on and he got sent off after about 2 minutes for nothing. Then obviously there was a lot of free kicks and stuff. Ash Taylor was going for free kicks. He had 3 men hanging out of his neck and he was giving free out. So regardless of the penalty, yeah, I'm obviously disappointed I missed the penalty. But again, the chances I've missed, there's not really a whole lot of regret in terms of gave me all. Appreciate the support I got back from the fans. Always support me very well. I think I've gone well with them. I think they're appreciative of the fact that I'd always try my best, and I managed to score goals for the club. Got on really well with everyone at the football club. There's a lot of great people around there who work in it and behind the scenes. Would be disappointed actually, because I'd say it's changed a bit now in terms of the team's probably away at the training ground now, whereas it used to actually be great crack being around the club. I think that was one of the good things we had going. There was a great atmosphere around the stadium on training days, because the staff would be around, the players would be around, and everyone would kind of get involved. The media team would be down, they'd have a bit of crack with us. But I think they're all a bit distant now from the squad itself. I think that could affect the team in terms of long term going forward, because there's not that kind of unity within the group. Everyone kind of pulling for each other. It's a bit separated now, so I'd say that could actually affect the team negatively going forward. Although the training ground looking brilliant and something the club needed, but no, personally, there's not a whole lot of change. Obviously, I'd rather put away a few more goals or chances that probably could have done better for us, but there's not too much I would have regretted.
My thanks to Adam Rooney. If you enjoyed today's watch, I'd be very grateful if you would please consider subscribing to Ali Begg AB TV here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything, and all it means, it just helps me build the channel as we get deeper into 2023. Right, that's it. We are all done for this edition of Begg's Banter. I really hope you enjoyed today's watch with Adam, and I'll see you again very soon for a brand new episode with a former Aberdeen player. Take care. See you soon.